Now guys, I'm gonna go through and add a lot of things that I think should be wide shot, like this wide shot of empty UFC arena and fighting cage. But what I'm gonna do from this point on, I'm gonna keep this copy. It's 11/4/2023 copy. I'm gonna keep this copy because it's gonna have less shot demands, you know, on very little actually throughout the entire script. And just in case they ask for an early copy. That's probably why I kept so many different copies of the other screenplays. I am adding, so I'm not going to just have one copy. But I'm going to keep this one, which is 11/4/2023 copy. And then I'm only going to have one copy from that point on. Because I'm doing a lot of like wide shot, bright full moon, in the dark sky, all this stuff. Close on Garlene the Cat. Garlene the Cat wakes up to the beautiful music of Al Stewart, reverse tracking following Garlene the Cat. This is like kind of almost going into production. So just want to let you know. Try to do that too. If you're doing any kind of comedy, whoops, just drop this, sorry about that. Get this thing right here. Any type of comedy, this is a really simple, easy guide for any screenwriter. You gotta get this screenplay. I got it for $3.99 right here. This is mandatory for all screenwriters. Also, my favorite comedy. Anyway, we're gonna do a scan. We're just scanning the screenplay. Still, and it needs work. Let me turn this off right here. There we go. Let me also, I'm gonna redo this. Okay, the screenplay's up to 200 pages now. We're just scanning the screenplay. And it does need work. I did figure something out this time around from the Coen brothers, especially Raised in Arizona. Point of view is always second. So if you have cameras point of view, like there's video cameras in this, or a person's point of view, put their name and then POV. Don't put point of view of the person. That's the way I figured that off watching, or just reading Raised in Arizona. I picked it up today and I made it, you know, maybe like 10 or 20 mistakes on point of view. This is an early draft. Still figuring out things. I do like a few things on it, like the sign coming up. There's 3 segments where the sign will come up. One in black and white silver sign that says like a year ago. It looks kind of like a road sign. Another time it's a wood sign with red paint on it. Gives that kind of Rome feel. There's a mentioning of Rome. We don't go back to Rome, we only mention it, but there is an anachronism towards the end of the script where he says sire. That was done on mistake, but I'm keeping it because I think it's funky. It's kind of Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, where it just suddenly ends. This one does have kind of a sudden ending too. It is 200 pages. I'm scanning as quick as I can, so I can, you know, have room for this show today. I've already got a full show. I haven't even left the house. I got to take a shower and start delivering roadie. But it's taken a little bit of time. I'm not, I'd be like a first-time screenwriter, like a clean slate screenwriter, even though I started writing screenplays back in 1992. Off and on throughout my life for about 30 years. But when you really start doing it, you start going, wait a minute, you can't do this, and wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And the point of view stuff is very sensitive. So always say the person's name, like Mark, the Uber driver's point of view, because it's there for a reason. There's a scene where the packing tape happens at Lowe's, if you've read that sequence, where Grace is trying to take the packing tape off of the wheel. That's a good point of view moment, because John Blacksmith is realizing that, or thinks that he is the werewolf because of his anger. It's really not about a werewolf, but there is a werewolf in it, and you only see its shadow at most of the time. Now I do call for at times in the barn where you would have to see the werewolf for this moment between John Blacksmith and the werewolf in the barn. And I'm okay with just kind of showing what it looks like. I'm taking it from some sightings in France in 1700s, like 1770s, There was 200, well, I think it's like, I think there was a report of 113 killed. Then there was a report that it was up to 100 that were killed and their throats were eaten out, and like an animal. Some say a hyena. Some describe the werewolf as tawny and russet, which is kind of a orange color, with like a brown kind of color with a tawny or russet stripes, maybe, or like a maybe even like orange stripes or something weird. I was looking at it last night. It happens. I cannot pronounce it, but it's Gévaudan. There's a documentary about werewolves in France, and I was taking the description a little bit from that, because I believe the guy's name in the script is called Gerald Ullman III. He has it memorized off of Wikipedia, and he shows it at the, I think they're like at a Denny's or something like that. They're at a place where you get breakfast and stuff, and it's like a cafe or something, and he shows, I don't know if it is a Denny's, I'll have to check, but he has it memorized. So he has it memorized off Wikipedia, and he's sitting there explaining it in a monologue, and he describes how it has stripes, you know. So we might see a little bit of that in the barn when we finally do see the werewolf. I'm just kind of saying no scene of the werewolf because I don't want it seen very much. I know we're gonna have to see it eventually, but I don't want to reveal it really at all. And if I'm radical like that, then there's a chance that we won't be able to see it, just the shadow of the werewolf. But then again, the barn sequences does require him to use old sherry, which is the canister, silver nitrate canister it sprays out and kind of covers the werewolf and hurts it. We'd probably have to see a little bit of it there. Now we do see Rainy Love at the end. She looks kind of like a satyr. So her legs are of the werewolf only. We do see that segment in the kitchen. So half of her is a werewolf, but it's only the bottom half, the legs only. We're at like 155, it's a pretty long script. There's a scene with the police officer and Robert Billings, which I love. I don't know if Bob Balaban can get back his chops back up, but I would love to use Bob Balaban as Robert Billings. It's just very calm guy. Social worker Robert Billings, there he is. I'm the social worker officer Robert Billings, and I'm certified by Parksville PD to head the officers and any authority concerning the accident with the Uber driver's vehicle to your property. Okay, sir? And that whole scene's done like very calm. Or he tries to calm the situation. It's kind of, they bring in a social worker, which is a new kind of introduction to law enforcement. Something that Biden was supposed to bring in, but it's Robert Billings, a completely fictional character. And he comes in and he's talking, you know, very calmly. In most cases, you know, if someone runs their car into your front living room, a social worker is not going to work. It's not going to work. There's going to be guns drawn, and it's going to get really bad. Not in all cases. Some people can understand it. When I lived in when I lived in Keller, we did have cars fly through our gate because we lived on a curved road, and we understand those. I mean, people understand those things can happen. The only thing is that Grace Lippon has, I think, seen these guys before, and so that's like the end. That's why I'm leaving the F-U-C-K in those scenes, because I think curse words would be, you know, would be called for. Meaning, you would be very mad. These people came back and ruined the front entrance of your house, you know, and they're claiming that you're actually a werewolf. F-U-C-K is going to be used. I don't care how long you've been going to church. People are gonna say it. They're not gonna want to say it, but that I'm leaving in there. I'm fighting for that. I did cut a lot of the SHITs and a lot of the other F words to tone down some of the language, just because it was getting kind of out of hand. All right, so 204 is what we're at.